let's start then. Okay. So it's 7 o'clock. Welcome everybody. We are here in another Guifilab here in our space of Guifilabs. Today we've got the second part of a previous Guifilab that we did. It is based in a solution made by a German-based company called NMS Prime. So, and we here have the luxury and the opportunity to have their CTO, Mr. Ole Ernst, from NMS Prime. Thank you, Ole, for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. First of all, as I usually do before starting a Guifilab, let me just introduce a bit about what a Guifilab is. A Guifilab is just a place, an open space for sharing knowledge. That's our main goal here. We share knowledge about community networks, of course, networking, different kind of approachment about network solution that we can share. And well, in this spirit of free knowledge and open source, we are here sharing knowledge. So if some of you want to share knowledge about something about this, I mean, these items or this stuff, you are very welcome to join us. And of course, we will arrange it to have you here. So focusing in what we have today on the way, let me introduce you, Mr. Ole Ernst. As I said, he's the CTO of NMS Prime. He's been in the company for about 5 years now, and he comes from a university background. Actually, he's still giving lectures on the university, Chemnitz University of Technology in Germany. And today, as I said, this is going to be the second part of the NMS Prime presentations. The first part with Mr. Martin Simmerling gave us a general approachment about the NMS Prime solutions, how they can provide to the different internet service provider. And then today, the experience, the Guifilab are going to be far more hands-on, well, let's say far more technical. On the previous presentation, Martin get some questions quite technical, and now we've got the opportunity to ask directly to the CTO, and that's it. So that's it, Ole. So let's start, and thank you again for having you here.
Okay, well, thanks for the introduction, and thanks for having me. Yeah, so as you said, I'm basically coming from university background, and my focus was always very strong on open source technology, and this is also it went through the university. I always worked with professorships which were looking much into open source, and still now with the company we want to show that you can actually succeed with open source and can actually make a business case out of open source. So yeah, this is very important to me. But let's just go straight into it. I'm going to share my screen, and I will just first start with a small presentation. You may have already seen it, or at least parts of it, because Martin basically showed them a little bit. I'm just going to use them very quickly to have something to show, and then we are going to switch to a demo system of ours right away, so that we can actually show how the system looks like and how you configure it and so on. So, right. So we, as NMS Prime, think it's important to be vendor and technology independent, agnostic. And the technology challenges are always, you have the various technologies with their own requirements. You have different manufacturers, and often the manufacturers will give you some software which belongs to the devices, and then you have so many multiple different software providers and softwares to run and to synchronize. This is always a bit of a pain. That's why we thought, let's make it a little bit more easy and just include everything into one system. And this is basically what NMS Prime is. So you can see we at the very bottom, we have our network element layer. There you have the various devices of the various vendors. And then on top, you have a technology layer, which basically gives you only one way to configure this through. So we don't really care what the technology itself is. We always try to use open standards and open technology to kind of encapsulate the various technologies and make them, from the user point of view, like only one technology, and that everything basically looks the same. And for this, as I said, we use a lot of open source software. For example, for our DHCP server, we use the ISC DHCP or the Kia DHCP server. For TR69 provisioning, we use Genie ACS, which is also open source. For monitoring, we use Isinga, and for showing diagrams, we use both Cacti and Grafana. So you see a lot of this technology is open source, and we try, if we, of course, find bugs or some improvements, we try to put this upstream such that the whole community will benefit from it. And as I said, on top of this, this is basically NMS Prime, and we have kind of an open basis with some of the apps, or most of the apps are open source, but we also provide a way for third parties to include their apps into our app store. They could be closed source if they wanted to, if this is a business case for them. But at least the apps we provide for the provisioning to get the networks online and so on, these are open source and they will remain open source. So yeah, here you can see some of them. For example, for the provisioning, you see we can do provisioning of the cable modems if you're on DOCSIS, or if you are using Wi-Fi with WISP functionality included, or you can do active Ethernet or GPON systems. And of course, you can also do MTA, like voice provisioning. On the other hand, we do also provide quality assurance. So if you can see with the system very easily if there are some issues in your network, and you can also see where they are located. I will show this later on. We have kind of a map where you can see where all the modems are located and what kind of status they have. And you can also do some, for example, some notifications. So maybe if some of your network is going down, you can adjust or say some thresholds. And if this, for example, the number of online modems go down or below this threshold, then you will get a notification. Further than this, we also have billing included. So this is mostly for our German customers right now. It's kind of customized for them, but we're also looking for customers from other countries to just include this as well. And when it comes to the customer support, we of course also provide ticketing. So if you have an outage, you can create a ticket, and then you can assign someone in your team to look at this right away. We also provide CRM module where you can, for example, your customers can log in and can download their invoices, for example, or can do, for example, speed tests. And as I said, we try to include this all in one piece of software. So you only have one point where your truth is or where your customer data is. So you don't need to replicate this and try to sync it all over. As I said, we try to put it all in one system. And that's really what I want to show you, or these are the slides I wanted to show you. And now I would suggest we go straight into the system. And for this, I'm going to share my browser window like this. And here you can see this is one of our demo, or actually our demo system. You can see on top, you can access it yourself if you would like to. It's you just have to go to demo.nmsprime.com/8080. This is the port. It's also linked in on our website, nmsprime.com. And from there, you can directly access this demo system. You can see there are some logins. For example, if you want to have an English login, you just use for your username and your password, you use customer. If you want to get the Spanish version, which is next to German and English, the best translated version, then you simply use cliente twice for username and password. But I'm going to use a different account today because the accounts I just showed you, they are kind of limited. So you cannot delete anything. You can only add new information. And for some, you cannot even change some information because, of course, we don't want anyone to delete everything or something like this. But with this access, I can basically do everything. You can see it's all web-based. Our operating system is Linux-based, of course. We are using CentOS or Red Hat Enterprise Linux on version 7. And we do provide all the necessary installation steps. It's basically very simple. You only create a minimal CentOS installation, and then we have some instructions. You basically only type in 2 or 3 commands, and the rest will be done all in the background with the normal packages, and all the setup and maintenance will be done in the background. And then you can just log in using your IP address, and there you have it. So let me just log in now as this user. And this is basically what you see when you first start up. So we have a threefold presentation. So on the top, you can see we have our navigation bar. You can search by any keyword, and it will search through the whole database. You can also search by IP address, for example, if you would like to find a customer or identify a customer by its IP address. And then you can see that we have a small summary here. In this case, of course, this is a very small network because this is our lab. In this case, we have 6 devices online right now. And on the very right, you can see the users. In this case, I'm the super user here. And you can see, of course, user settings, your password and your language and so on. And what I already tried to explain you a little bit is that we have this role concept where you can say what each user, so a user has a role. In this case, my user has the role admin. And so you can see there's the role admin. And basically, my ability is I can do everything. And I can just, I'm a super user. On the other hand, the customers I showed you on the login screen, they are of role no delete. And here you can see that they cannot do a lot. For example, when it comes to the provisioning, which we are going to look closely soon, you will see that you are able to create config file, a contract, a modem, and so on. And you are also able to update them, but you cannot delete them. So we don't want anyone to delete our systems or our devices. And here you can see in a very fine-grained manner, you can decide what a user or a role can do regarding all the tables which are available, the database tables. Okay, but let me just go back to our main screen here. You can see on the left side, you can see all the apps we are providing. In this case, this system has a lot of apps installed. You can see I will go through some of them. And if you click here on our native apps, you can see these are all the apps which you already kind of saw in our slides. And of course, we do provide other apps as well, which you can see here. And they are not installed right now at the system. But this could be kind of considered our app store. And there you can just click on the app, and then it's very easy to install a new one if you would like to. Going back to the main screen, you can see the last thing I wanted to show you regarding our dashboard is basically our main view here. You can see a summary of how many contracts we have, how many tickets are open. You have some quick start shortcuts. You can see a system summary, how many modems, how many net elements, how many services are running, and in which state they are. You can see a trouble dashboard. In this case, there are no major outages, so there's nothing to show. But you can also see the minor ones. If you click here, you can see there are some info issues. For example, this amplifier here, there are 2 or 5 modems are offline, and so it's only 60% are online. This could be an issue, and maybe you want to look at this. And you can, from here, you can right away click on this ticket button, and then you can start just assigning it, creating a ticket, and assigning it to someone down here. On the other hand, for example, regarding this is the provisioning system itself. You see there are some warnings regarding updates. You can go, you can click here on this button, and then you go directly to Isinga, which I said is kind of in the background and is monitoring all the services and all the net elements which we are using. And let me just use my login for Isinga quickly. There you can see we jump right into the service issue and to the updates in this case. Here you can see we have some updates to install. In this case 94. They are non-critical, and so this is just a warning. The next step would be a critical error, and then this would be probably some critical updates you have to do because they are security related. Okay, so much for well, and down below, of course, you can see we also have a YouTube channel where if we have released a new version or something is to show, we upload this there as well. Right. So that's so much for our dashboard. And now I would like to show you something a little bit more about the provisioning side of things. So we start here with provisioning, and maybe the first thing before you can start actually creating modems and get them online, of course, you need some net gateways. We call it net gateway. It could be, for example, a CMTS if you're in a DOCSIS world. It could be a OLT in the GPON world, or it could be a ENG if you're using active Ethernet and you want to limit speed using PBPoE. And here you can see the devices which are available here. I'm just gonna open two of these devices. First, this is the CMTS, and this is the ENG, which we are using. When it comes to the CMTS, you can see here, this is just a Cisco CMTS with IPv4 and IPv6. You can see the various pools. So you have to define first, of course, what kind of IP addresses your customers should get. And this can be done using the pools. So we have, for the cable modems, there is a pool. For the private CPEs, so you can both assign private IP addresses or public IP addresses to your customers. Of course, if you assign private IP addresses, you need to do some kind of netting to get them into the internet. And of course, in the DOCSIS world, we also have an MTA, and this is used for voice over IP provisioning. On the other hand, so this is CMTS, so this is DOCSIS world. On the other hand, of course, we also have for active Ethernet, for example, or for GPON, we use, as I said, PBPoE. And so for this, we need a device which is terminating the PBPoE session. And in this case, this would be the ENG, or sometimes also called BRAS. And this is one example here. It's a Ubiquiti. It's a quite small router. This is just for our lab. It's a very simple device. And you can see, just like with the CMTSs, here you also have an IP pool. And these are IPs which will then be handed out to the devices connecting via PBPoE. So once you've done all of this, we can go back to our dashboard and we go to a contract. So we can start adding some new contracts. And here you can see our edit or our index table. So here you can see all the contracts. So in this case, we have 31. We only show the first 10, but of course you can say I want to see all of them. But let's just stick with 10. And now you can, of course, search by them. Either you search on top here, or you go down below here and you search by a name. Maybe we first name should start with D, and maybe the surname should be Unverricht. So this is one of our colleagues. And yeah, we only have one contract left. So we can click on this, and now we can see the basic information. We see, of course, the name, the street, the city, and so on. And this information is later used to locate where a modem is installed. You can see on the right side the modems which are assigned to this contract. So in this case, we have both. This would be, for example, a DOCSIS modem. This would be a GPON modem, and I'm going to show both of them. Yeah, and of course, more information regarding the phone and when the contract started, when it ends, how it should be built, if we want to create invoices or not. You can see down below we have some tickets. If we have some issues regarding the contract, you can assign tickets here. And yeah, let me just open two modems here. One is DOCSIS, as I said, and one is GPON. And if I open them up, you can see this is the DOCSIS modem. You can see most of the time the information of the location is just copied over from the contract. But of course, you can adjust this if you wish to. So you could override this if the modem is installed in a different location. And now, based on this information, as you can see down below here, we automatically retrieve the geolocations using certain services. So first we use OpenStreetMap, again, going into the open source ideology, we would like to we like to push the open source movement, and so this is our first system, because this is also nice with OpenStreetMap. You can always, if the system cannot resolve an address to a geocoordinate, you can always go to OpenStreetMap yourself, and there you can add the new addresses, and based on this, everyone will have an advantage, because now more data is going to OpenStreetMap. So not just you have an advantage, but everyone else will also profit from it. And of course, we also provide Google Maps and Here Maps for doing this geolocation. And of course, the most important thing you need to supply when you are creating a modem in the DOCSIS world, of course, or at least you need to provide the MAC address, and you also need to provide the config file. When we are more talking about the GPON world or the active Ethernet world or the Whisper world, of course, you need some different information. You need a different config file, maybe, if you want to provision a device, maybe using TR69. So you see, it's simply choosing a different config file, and that's basically it. Everything else is kind of hidden from the normal user, and we will see how the config files are generated or how they are defined. In this case, for the GPON world, since we are using PBPoE, we of course also need the PBPoE username and the password. And if you were to use TR69, we can also push this information to the device using TR69. And on this note, we can actually have a look at the two config files which we just saw. So we had the base config file for DOCSIS, and we have this 5491 config file for the GPON device. So if we click here on the config file section, you will see that these are all the config files which are available in our demo system. You see there are a lot of them because we do some testing there, or some other customers created some config files. So it looks a little bit messy right now, but of course, usually what you do is you kind of make a hierarchy. For example, like in the DOCSIS world, you start with a base config file, then you have your various vendors, and then you can subdivide this into the devices, and then in the devices you can have the various firmwares, for example. And so if you assign, let's say, this config file to a modem, then we are going along the tree to the root, and all the information which are in the various config files, they are assembled together, and everything together will then be the final config file which is assigned to the device. So if we, for example, open up along the tree here, you can see that this is the very bottom, and here we only define a firmware. So if you want to do firmware updates, you can do this here. And besides this, there are no config parameters in here. The next one, on one layer up, you can see it contains only one information regarding voice over IP provisioning. Then one layer above, you can see, again, there's no information, because this is just used for making it neat and to kind of have a nice hierarchy. And last but not least, we have our top element, which is the base config file. And here, at least for the DOCSIS world, here you have most of the information included. For example, here you can see for the upstream direction, you can see the rate, basically your speed. For the downstream direction, you have your speed here, and you have more information for encryption and for SNMP access, for example, if you want to monitor your devices via SNMP. This is some information, and also some firewall stuff. The cool part about this system is that we kind of have a templating engine built in. So you can see that we don't really say what the speed is of the customer, but we have a variable here. And this variable, if you create a modem in a contract, this variable is automatically taken from the contract. So you don't have to create so and so many config files for the various speeds you want to hand out to your customers, but you only have one central one, and this is automatically, the variables are taken into consideration and then filled in when you create a modem. And another cool feature is that you can actually also calculate the values, or make some calculations with the values. For example, here our traffic burst, this is 18.75% of our maximum rate. So we can do addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division, something like this. So the basic calculations we can do right away here. And on the other hand, of course, we also have what I said in the GPON world. We were talking about the 5491 device. And looking at this config file, you see it's a little bit different. I mean, this is specific to DOCSIS. And on the other hand, here we have, of course, a non-DOCSIS device. And this looks, of course, a little bit different because this is TR69. So here we use this protocol to talk with the device and configure it accordingly. But again, you can see that we can use variables here as well. For example, the PBPoE username and password, what we just saw here in our edit page of the modem, these two informations here, they will be automatically put in into this section. And so now if the device comes up for the first time, so if we see that it's coming out of a factory reset, we will talk with the device and we will push this information into the device. In this way, it will get the credentials, and this way it will reconnect, and now we know exactly what customer has which PBPoE session going on. Of course, we also have some voice over IP stuff down below here. And now you may ask, how do we know what the transmission rates are, the downstream and upstream rate? And this is configured in our contract. So if you look back into the contract where I started from, you see down below we have items here. And this is because we are using the billing system in this information or in this instance. And here you can see this is the most recent one. This is a green one. So this is the active item right now. And you can see there is currently a 100 megabit, at least it's called 100 megabit flat going on. And if we click on this item, you can see this is an instance of a product. And you can see the product up here. The product is called 100 megabit flat. And in the product, you can also see, of course, how much it costs and how much you want to bill the customer with. Of course, also what the billing cycle is. Do you want to do it monthly? Do you want to do it yearly or something like this? And this product now is referring to a quality of service entity. And this is called 100 Mbit. And now if we look in provision, we see we have a QoS down here. And we can, of course, search for this 100 Mbit. There you can see this is our QoS. And looking at the QoS, you see it's not correctly named. It's actually 120 Mbit. In this case, in the downstream and in the upstream direction. So it's in this case, it's just a lab. It's just a test lab. This would be a synchronous speed 120 megabits in both directions. And we will see now if we go to our modems and into our analysis page now, we will see that this is actually, we will see this 120 megabit again. So let's just click on the analysis, and here we have the first instance where we see some monitoring data. So you can see we are currently retrieving this information via SNMP from the device. You can see first on the dashboard, internet access is enabled and telephony is also allowed. We can see that we know what the IP address, of course, is. We know that this is reachable and pingable, so this looks fine. On the left side, we see the real-time values. We see what kind of device it is, what kind of firmware it has, how long it's up currently, behind which net gateway it is located. We already had a look at this CMTS in the beginning when we were creating or looking at the IP pools. And then we can see our physical data. So in this case, we have a downstream and upstreams, which are bonded. So we have 4 channels in downstream direction, 4 upstreams in the 4 channels in the upstream direction. And you also see the physical data. And if you're not really much aware of the DOCSIS values, we also do color coding for you. So that you see, okay, everything is green and it's probably everything is fine. Of course, these are real-time values now. If you want to look back into the history, you can scroll down here, and here now you can see diagrams about all this information. So we have an overview diagram, as you can see. You can also click on the various elements to zoom in and only see one of the graphs if you are interested in. You can also, of course, hover over it. In the background, all of this is Grafana. We did not implement this ourselves, of course. This is just, again, another open source project we're using. You can scroll down. You can see, sometimes you can see 3 graphs. And the explanation for this is because if you look, we are talking about downstream SNR here. If we are looking up, you see we are talking about basically this column here. And you see that there are, of course, 4 channels. And if we plot them, we always show the worst, the best, and the average of all. So that's why you sometimes, or most of the times, you will see 3 graphs, because it's multiple channels. And of course, we also have the traffic. So you can also monitor, of course, what your customer, what kind of bandwidth it's using. In this case, it's very small. It's only 400 bits per second, because we're, this is just for our lab testing. Furthermore, we have a spectrum functionality. If we click on this, this may take some time. So I'll just, usually it takes around about 10 seconds. It really depends also on the device. And with this, you can kind of measure at the spectrum of the complete channel from 100 to 800 megahertz in the DOCSIS channels, and see what kind of power levels you have. So with this, you don't really need to go into the field and with your measurement gear and see how it looks like, but you can actually see it right away. And in this case, you can see we measure from 150 to 500 megahertz in this case, and we have downstream channels from around about 300 megahertz to 320. And this should be only there, and there's nothing else, because this is a test lab. And we should see this up here as well. You can see the frequency roundabout in the same location. So this makes sense. And then regarding the provisioning, of course, we also have some information. You can see what the modem is doing or has been doing over the last couple of days. So you see DHCP, it's trying to get its IP address or to release its IP address every 12 hours in this case, because we have a lease time of 24 hours. You can see the lease file, what kind of IP address is currently valid. You can see the config file, of course. And here you can see what I was telling you about the QoS values. We saw we had defined 120 megabits per second. And you can see this now being replaced. So when we look back in our config file, these were variables. And now they are being replaced when we create this modem. And also you can see this is a different value, because this is something we did a multiplication with the original value. So this is a different value. Furthermore, we can see the event log. This is DOCSIS-specific stuff which we can get via SNMP. And we also have pre-equalization constants. This is also regarding the DOCSIS world. If you want to, with this information, you can kind of see if there are some reflections in your net. So maybe you have some issues with your cable, or maybe you have too much bent cable, and this will create reflections. And with this information, you can kind of get this information, or get to know the information. Okay, so let's jump a little bit more into the GPON world. And so, as I said, this is just another device. We can also click here on the analysis, and you will see that this looks similar. Again, we can see that the modem is online. We can see some information regarding the device. We see kind of the uptime and what serial number and what firmware we have. And here now we actually see some GPON related information. So here we can see the power levels of receive and transmit. So this would be the optical receive level, the optical transmit level, what the thresholds are. We can also see a log of the device itself. This is retrieved, all of this information is retrieved via TR69. And down below, again, you can see some diagrams. And you will see that this dashboard looks different compared to the other one, because this is completely definable by yourself. So you can, with Grafana, you can create your own dashboards according to your wishes, and you can adjust it as you wish. And then we can load this and define what kind of dashboard should be shown. So in this case, we see the upstream power, the downstream power, and we have traffic. We could, of course, also say, I want to see a different dashboard here. And for this, we would go again back to the config file. We would go to the 5491. And here you can see, say what kind of dashboards do I want to see. So for example, we could say, I want to see a DSL dashboard. In this case, it doesn't make much sense, but we can do anyway. And we could hit save. And if we now refresh this page, you see right now we only have 4 diagrams. But if we now refresh, you will see that the dashboard will look differently. You see the first, of course, will be different, the same, but now we have synchronized bandwidth, attainable bandwidth, attenuation. So this is more information which is related to the DSL world. And of course, we are not monitoring this data because this data doesn't make much sense for the GPON world. But anyway, at least you can see that it's very easy to change the dashboard according to your needs. And this is all done via the config file. So I'm going to roll back. And now if I refresh again, you will see that we are back where we used to be. Regarding PPPoE or regarding the GPON world, you will see, of course, that the config file looks now a little bit different. Again, the parameters or the variables have been replaced by the actual values, which were coming from the contract or from the modem itself. Since we are talking about PPPoE here, we can see what the current session is. So here you can see right now we are connected to this ENG. This session started early in the morning at 2:30, and you can also see what the last sessions were. So over the last couple of days, you can see usually the session is going for one day because we set up our system such that a device will automatically disconnect it after 1 day, and then it needs to reconnect. You can see the replies. So this is basically what we reply to the BNG. And again, you will see here our 120 megabits. So if the device is starting up a PPPoE session, it's connecting to the BNG or to the router basically. And then it's asking, hello, I'm this and this device. This is my username. This is my password. Please allow me to open a PPPoE session. And then the router will talk with NMS Prime, and we have a built-in radio server. And our radio server will check if the credentials match and if this user is known. And if yes, this is what we hand out to the router. So that we tell the router, please, for example, here the session timeout, please terminate the session after 1 day. And this is basically exactly what's happening. So this is 1 day in seconds. And we also tell it, of course, what the speed should be. And then the router, the central router, the BNG, will basically enforce the speed of the modem. So if the modem would be using too much speed, then the router will make sure that some packets are discarded and thrown away, such that the modem will never send more or receive more than it's allowed to. And we will also see authentication. So these were the last couple of days, and we see everything went well. So the credentials are actually in the device, and yeah, the communication with the radio server and the BNG was properly done. Okay, so much for provisioning or monitoring the devices. Let's just jump quickly into our maps, which we provide. I told you when we create a modem, we automatically generate the geo coordinates, and we can actually click here on this link, and then we can see where the modem is located in our on our map. And you can see it somewhere here in Marienberg. So this is our test lab. Actually, the test lab is somewhere down below here, but we just set it up so that it looks a little bit nicer, and we just spread the modems over this location. And now you may not only want to see this modem, but the modems in the vicinity. And for this, you can click here on our rectangular shape, and you can say, please show me all the customers in this rectangle. And now you can see the modems which are close by. So you can, of course, click here on these markers, and there you can see the modems. You can click on here, and then you go directly to the modem again. You can also see the physical information, upstream, downstream power, SNR. And there are 2 modems in this case on this location, and that's why we showed both of them. Of course, you could also click. Maybe right now we are looking at the upstream power. You can also click at the other ones. And for example, if we click on the last one, you will actually see that this color is changing. This is just what we saw here. This value is not perfect, and so it's shown in yellow. And no matter, or depending on what you click, the color will change, of course. You can, of course, also draw polygons, saying I don't want to see this in my view. Maybe I want to just see these ones, and I can click again, and then as you can see, this one is skipped. Furthermore, regarding DOCSIS, we can also do this PNM visualization. This is, again, a little bit more specific to DOCSIS. So I'm not going into much detail about this issue here or this information. Maybe you want to see the diagrams of all these modems in one view. And this is what you can do up here, clicking on the diagram. And there you can see now the diagram we just saw for one modem. You can now see for all the 4 modems we just looked at. So first we have this overview diagrams. We can also look at upstream SNR or upstream power or whatever. And if we zoom a little bit down, you can see these are the actual diagrams. Or maybe we don't care about this. We only want to see what the traffic is. And then you can see here the 4 information about what the customers in this location looked at. Of course, what I didn't show you before, you can also zoom out and look at older data, or you can zoom in again, and in very fine-grained manner, you can zoom in as much as you wish. Of course, not too much, because otherwise you don't see anything, but something like this. Okay. So let's just jump to our complete network, and I just want to show you how this could look like. So in this case here, now you can see our complete topology. In this case, it's mostly DOCSIS, as I said. So we have our CMTS here. Then we have a couple of clusters. We have some amplifiers. And here are our modems. And you can see, based on the color, you know right away, is the device online or is it not? So in the background, we are using Isenga, as I said, to monitor the state of this device. And if it's red, it's offline. If it's green, it's online. If it's yellow, then we don't know, because maybe you didn't assign an IP address to this device, and thus we cannot monitor it. And down below here, you see the actual modems. So these are our bubbles. And if you click on them, you can see that, again, we are basically where we used to be. And or if we click here, you can see some other modems here in our home location. And now you may ask, how do we know what modems are behind which amplifier or behind which element? And this is, we do this using our topography or some polygons. So if we click here on the topography, you can see that we have defined some polygons. And now we basically say every modem which is in this polygon, we define to be behind this amplifier. Or we say, for example, here we have a small one. We say every modem which is in this location belongs to another amplifier. In this way, we can kind of determine what modem is behind which cluster or behind which amplifier. You can, of course, also click here on the CMTS, for example, or on one of the clusters maybe. Let's click here. And then you can click on the diagram. And now you get diagrams for the complete cluster. So this is not regarding one certain modem, but this is now monitoring the net gateway and also via SNMP, and there you can get some information. For example, regarding the upstreams or regarding downstream. For example, now you can see all the traffic which is going to the CMTS or through the CMTS. This way you can see maybe I need more downstreams at some point in time or more channels, because all my channels are occupied very much. And so maybe I need to add new downstreams such that my customers will actually get the bandwidth they subscribe to. Going back here, we can also click, of course, on the CMTS itself. And here we have some SNMP controlling data. So you can see all the upstreams in this case. And now you could actually also not just, maybe if you look at this column here, you will see this is updating every 5 seconds, for example. And there you can see some real-time values, for example, about the unerrored packets which we're going through. But the cool thing here is you can also adjust this. So you could say, okay, I want to change my upstream frequency to 12 megahertz. And then you save it, and then this is pushed onto the device. And the same is true for GPON. So this would be an OLT here. Clicking on this, you kind of get a different view, of course. And for example, you could say, okay, this customer, I don't want this customer to be up anymore. So I set it to down, I save it, and then the customer would go down and would not be able to connect anymore. Of course, this is just manual stuff. We can also do this automatically. For example, if your contract is over and the customer is not paying anymore, you can do this, of course, but you would not do this here because this is too much effort for you. You would need to go and identify each customer. No, we do this, of course, via the contract. So you would say this item is over, and you terminate it maybe at the end of a year, and then automatically we will delete the information in our radio server. And so after latest after 1 day, the customer tries to log in again and tries to establish a new PPPoE session, and then we will not recognize this customer anymore, and then it will not be able to contact us anymore. Maybe to see what this SNMP module could be used for as well, I have another example here at a local customer of ours, and you can see again, this is a complete new graphical user interface. This is completely configurable by you. So you only need the SNMP OIDs, which need to be queried. And based on this, you can say, I want this information on the top left and this information on the bottom right. And so this can be completely adjusted according to your needs, whatever you want to see here. And again, you could just add something. Maybe you want, I don't know, to change it to here, and then you hit save, and then this is pushed onto the device. So this would be a node, and here we have an amplifier. Looks a little bit different, but as I said, completely configurable by you. Maybe another thing I wanted to show you is our workforce module. This is only interesting if you have a lot of or more of your users or more of your co-workers who are in the field, or you have a lot of field techs, and you want to see where the various field techs are. And so if you click here on the workforce, you basically can see our tickets. So in this case, we have 2 tickets right now. And you can also, if you zoom out a little bit, you can also see where our field technicians are right now. So you can see they are here. And you see we have two field technicians right now. And we also have, but which we don't usually show right away, we also have some other users. And these are the ones which are usually in the office and take care of first level support and don't really go out in the field. And so you can click on this, and now you can see we have some laptops here. These are just some of our workers who are at home or at, for example, now in home office. And we get this information where they are located via the browser. So if you look up here, we can tell, actually you can't see it, but with the browser you can define, do you want to send the geolocations which you currently have via the browser to the server? And if you do so, we can update your location, and then you can see where you are right now. And in this case, you can see we have one green truck, which is not used right now. So this is one field tech who does not have any ticket open right now. And on the other hand, we have another field tech who is occupied right now. And this is indicated by the red logo. Now you can click on it, and now you can see a line, and you can see which ticket this truck is currently handling. So you can see Christian Schramm, one of our colleagues, he was last seen 4 hours ago, and he is assigned to this ticket. And of course, you can have a look at the ticket. You can see, in this case, it's just a test ticket, so lorem ipsum, nothing really interesting, but you can also see the information of the net element it was assigned to, or of the modem it was assigned to. And of course, this field tech can also use this information to get a route directly. So you can click here. In this case, we're using Google, and this way you would directly get directions. So this is where the field tech is located right now. This is where the ticket is. And this way you could get routed also via the smartphone, for example, to the destination where the ticket has been opened. Okay, and of course you get some statistics, how many trucks are available, how many are busy, and so on, how many tickets have been created today, how many have been resolved, and so on and so forth. Right, let me see something else. I don't know how many time, maybe we can shout in the round and see if there are some questions, and I could try to ask them, and if not, if we still have sometimes I can show some more later on.
Well, up to you, Ole. Sorry, up to you. If you want to explain us something more, feel free to continue. It's very interesting. So I don't know.
Okay, so maybe I'll show just our CCC module, our customer control center, just quickly. And I think this will probably it. I mean, I can also show you the API later on if you're interested, but I think this is more for if you really want to. So we do have an API. I didn't mention this. So you can, from an outside system, if you have your own CRM system with your own customer data, you can interface with us. And I could show you if you would like to, and if we still have time, I could show you some API calls, how you, for example, create a contract or a modem using our API. But the other thing I wanted to show you was our customer module. So if you have paying customers, maybe you want them to access their invoices automatically. So maybe you don't want to send it via post or via email, because this could be sensitive data. And this is probably not a good idea to send this over via email. And so what we have included as well is a CCC. We call it a customer control center. And with this, the customer can log into another system, which is kind of separated. So our admin system and the complete database is completely separated from the customer control center. But it's running on the same server. Of course, it could be running on another server as well, but you will see that it's also running on a different port. So the admin is running on port 8080 per default. The customer port is usually the normal HTTPS port, so 443. And so even there, we have kind of a distinction. And for example, you could set up your firewall such that to 8080, only a certain number of IPs are allowed to access this. And for the normal HTTPS traffic, which could be used by your customers, this would be open to everyone, for example. So if you want to give your customer access to the control center, you can go on the documents page here, and there you can download connection information. So I'm going to do this right now. So in the background, we now created a PDF, and I'm going to open this PDF. And here you can see, NMS Prime, and this is the name of the customer. And here you get some information. Of course, this is German. This can, of course, completely be customized according to your needs. But the main idea is now that you have an URL here. Again, now you see it's not on port 8080. So this is for the customer. And so if we open up this link, you can see we have a different login page now. Of course, the background can be changed according to your wishes. And now you could send this via postal service to your customer. And now your customer can log in to get its invoices, for example. So this is the username, and here's the password, which is generated automatically in the background when we create a PDF. And now if the customer is logging in, you can see it's quite simple. In this case, we only have one invoice of 2018 in this case. So here the customer can download the invoice. I will open it up as well. Here you can see, for example, this customer has a 2 megabit flat, or used to have a 2 megabit flat, and you can see all the costs, and also you can see the IBAN numbers and so on for transferring this money to you, basically. And so this is easy, the invoices. On the other hand, what the user can also do is kind of a speed test, because usually what we saw is when a customer is using a speed test, it's going to the outside world, it's going to the internet, and you don't necessarily have control over what's beyond your network. Maybe there's, maybe your upstream ISP or your upstream partner does not have the proper speed, or maybe the speed test server, which is somewhere located, maybe it's far away, or maybe it's kind of, already completely used, and thus you don't really get the download speeds you would actually expect. This is why we created our own speed test server on NMS Prime. And here you can start it from the customer control center. And now if we click start, we can see the jitter, you can see the ping. You can see I have a very good internet connection here. So you will see I'm actually streaming from the university right now. And so our connection is quite good. And this is what you can see. It's like 200, 400 megabits. But of course, you would normally tell your customer, please do this measurement from within our network. and then it would only be the very short connection between the modem and the provisioning server, which is completely out in your control, or which is completely in your control. And this way you can make sure that the speed test is actually, only checking your network and not the outside world or the internet, which, as I said, could be unreliable. Yeah, and another thing what the customer is, of course, able to do is he can change its password, of course. He can also say, do I want to receive a newsletter or not? And yeah, we will get this information then. And yeah, of course, if you have, every month a newsletter or something like this, the customer can on its own say, I don't want to receive it, or I want to receive it. So it's quite simple. But I think it's effective, and it's all what you really need, I think, for the customer. Of course, later on, what we plan is also to enable the customer to change its own contract or its own items. So maybe the customer could say, starting from next month, I would like to have a bigger or more speed. This is currently in the works. It's not yet deployed, but this is something we're planning to do as well. All right, let's stop here, I would say, and let's just have a look for some questions.
Nice.
Okay, there's also a question about the API. I see in the chat. So if you give me 10 minutes more time, I can just show you around.
Feel free to have all the time that you need.
Okay, great. So I prepared a little example here, how you would create a contract and a modem using our API. For this, let me just open up the right pages. So you will see, okay, well, this happened because I was logged in as a user, and now I logged out as the user, so I need to log in again. Let me just give a second here. So this was root. Okay, so we're back at our contract screen. And if I'm now looking for my own name, you can see I don't have a contract right now in this system. And what I'm trying to do now is I will create a contract using the API. And for this, I already prepared a script which we can use to interact with the demo system. So let me just share my whole screen for you, that you can see everything I'm doing. So this is basically now, so first off, if you want to access the API, it's pretty simple. I mean, it looks pretty much the same. So let's just, for example, here you can see the contract, which is accessible via the graphical user interface. And now I can do the same also with the browser. At least I can get the contents using the API. So you can see that normally it's just admin/contract. If you want to use the API, it's admin/API/version0/contract. So basically you just need to add API and version 0. And besides this, it's exactly the same like the graphical user interface. And so if I want to get, maybe let's say I want to get all the contracts, I just hit enter like this. And now, of course, the browser is asking me for a username and a password because the API is, of course, also protected. And so I need to, let me just get the password and the username. It's a little bit different. Before, you remember, I used root as my username. Now, in this case, I have to use the email. So this is root@localhost.com. But the password is the same. So I'm going to put in the password here. And now you will see that if we look at the raw data, this is now a JSON model of all the contracts. So you have the first contract, there's the second contract, and if we do show this properly with the browser, you can now see I'm just going to collapse everything. Success was true, so the call was fine, and now you can see all the models here. And so these are all the contracts, and if you count them, they will of course match with these 31 entries we had here. But of course, I can only use the browser for getting information now. Just so you know, we do have the API documentation on our webpage. This is also linked in via NMSPrime.com. This is basically our wiki, and you can search here by API, and here you can basically find some examples, some Python examples how you would interact with the API. And this is basically what I'm going to do now as well. So this is just querying, but maybe I want to create a contract now. And so I have a simple Python script here. You can see my username and the password I'm getting from a file. And so what I'm trying to do now is I will create a contract. So again, it's the same as you saw here, API version 0 contract. So it's the same endpoint, but instead of doing a get now, I will do a post. So I will send information to the server. And of course, I need to log in first in order to post this. That's clear. And now I'm going to, this is my JSON file or my JSON string. I want to send this information to the server. And now you can see, of course, my first name, my last name. And now I will explicitly make an error, and I will forget to set the cost center ID, which is used if you're using the billing system. So I will remove this. And now I will try to call this API with Python, just on the command line. Maybe I can make it a little bigger for you. And now I call it. And you will see I'm getting the success is false. So there's an issue with my request. And it's also telling me what the problem is. So my validator is telling me the cost center is required. So I'm going back into my script. And now I will set the cost center properly. And now I will run this. I hope you can see it. Maybe I can make it a little bit bigger for you. Not sure if this is an issue, but let me just make it a little tiny more, maybe a little bit bigger like this. And now I'm sending this with the cost center ID, of course, set. So if I do this again, you will see now success is true. So I was able to add the contract, and the API is also telling me what kind of ID the contract has now. So if we go back to our contracts and I do refresh now, and now I will look for my name, and you will see there it is. So, and also all the information I set up, for example, my contract number, this is what you can see here. This is the number. You see my birth date. Of course, it's not correct. It's just any birthday I set up. This is down below here, January 1970. And maybe I want to change something about this contract now because I did a mistake. And so what I'm going to do now is, instead of doing a post, I'm going to do a patch. So I want to patch this contract. And now, of course, I need to refer to this contract. And I learned that this is my ID. So let's just take this ID and put it below after the contract. And now I'm just saying, please update my birthday to a birthday which is closer to my actual birthday. So let's just say 1st of January 1989. And so if I execute this again, you will see, again, success is true. The ID is, of course, my contract. And now you see it used to be 1st of January 1970. And if I hit refresh, now it's 1989. So you can create contracts. Of course, you can also edit them. The next thing I would like to do is I would like to create a modem in this contract. So this is the next line here. You can see now instead of contract, now I'm referring to the endpoint modem. Yeah, I have the same information again. Of course, now I need to set the contract ID. Let me just first remove this. And again, we will probably get an error. So let's do this. Of course, yes, it's telling me the contract ID is. Of course, if I create a modem, I need to know to which contract this modem belongs to. So I need to set this up properly. And remember, this was the ID, my contract. So I need to put it in here properly. And now if I run it again, eventually you will see, okay, the modem has been created. So let's go into my contract. You see there was no modem. If I refresh, you will see now there is a modem in here. And I set the MAC address just 42.42.42 for whatever. And I set a config file of number 3. and this is the base config file. So if we click here, you can see again our base config file. So if we go to our config files and I click on the base, you will see on the top, this is ID 3. So this is the one you need to supply as well. And based on this now, the modem was created. And yeah, and you saw that I didn't set up any internet access information. For example, here down below, you can see internet access. So in my initial post, I forgot to tell that the modem is actually allowed to get internet access. And this is what I'm going to change now. So again, I'm going to do a patch. I will need to set the correct modem ID. And the modem ID I got via the API as well. When I was creating, the API was telling me what the modem ID is. So I need to use this information and put it below here. And now I can patch this. And now, yes, now I'm getting a warning. The success is true. So this was fine. But I'm kind of getting a warning that I could not, the modem was not able to be restarted. And of course, the reason is that this modem does not exist. And so, of course, it cannot be restarted. This is just an indication that maybe if you have a proper modem and of course, you change this information, then you want the modem to be restarted. For example, if you disable internet access for your customer, you want, of course, to restart the modem such that this is reflected right away. In this case, of course, the modem is not there. And so you get an indication that, yeah, this didn't work. But if we look now here, you see internet access is not enabled. If I press enter now or F5, you will see it is enabled. And last but not least, I just want to show you how you can delete information. This is the last one here. You can see if I go back to my contract with this navigation bar on top, you see the modem is here. Now I'm going to delete the modem. Of course, I need the ID. The ID this was the ID here. So let me just put this in here. And if I execute this again, it's telling me, yes, successful to delete. It's also telling me I deleted the modem. But again, I also get a warning that this restart failed because, of course, the modem is not there. And now we should see the modem is here. If I press F5 now, the modem is gone. And we can do the same with the contract. So if I look at my contract page again, you can see, of course, it's still there. And now I will delete my contract. Of course, I need the ID. I do not use the modem ID now. I, of course, use the contract ID. And if I put this in here and run it again, we'll see the contract is deleted. And if I press F5, it's gone. Maybe one more thing, we can also look at the status of a modem. So if I want to get some data about the modem, I can just call modem, then the ID, and then status. And if I call this, you will see that, well, the modem is down. So let me just see, the modem is red, so it's down. The status is false. On the other hand, if I use one which is up, for example, the 96 here, we just update this quickly, 96. And if I refresh, now you will see success is true. And I can also, of course, restart a modem via the API. So if I use this last example here, also using 96. And you see, of course, right now the modem is online. We can see this in the analysis page. Modem is online. Now, if I do this again, now it's telling me success true. Modem restarted via net gateway. And if I now press F5, you will see modem is offline. So this is just some examples how you could use the API. Okay.
Well, thank you, Ola. Well, before having questions, we've got some questions here from Gabriel in the text box. Let me just congratulate you for this wonderful presentation. A lot of information has been told in a very short time and very clear, which is always remarkable. and that's because I want to congratulate you. It's well, as I see you're giving lectures on the university, so it always helps.
Right, I'm quite used to it. I mean, also to Big Blue Button, for example, this is what we also use at the university. So yeah, I do this every week, more or less, at least in the winter semester. So yeah, I'm kind of used to it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, good. Okay, so we've got some questions here from Gabriel. I don't know if you, I mean, referring to the rest of the attendees have more questions. Remember that you not only can text your questions, you can turn on your microphone. So as we are here, less than 10 people together, so perhaps it's better. So don't be shy. Feel free to take on your microphone if you fancy. So I don't know if you can. Well, of course you can read it, but I'm just going to read the questions from Gabriel because on the streaming, perhaps it's not so clear. I'm quoting. I would like if you could talk a bit about the economic model of your company. What kind of services do you provide to ISPs? How much do they cost?
So our business model is basically that. So it's twofold. First we have software licenses, and secondly we have just service, or like an SLA, or like a service contract. So usually for the smaller customers we have some customers who are not very very firm or very well aware of the software and so on, and they can't really provision or configure the software itself, and also the whole ecosystem, like the CMTSs and the network infrastructure. And this is basically for the smaller customers or for the smaller ISPs, this is all included in our service model. So it used to be like this, that we have the software is completely free, everything is open source, and we get the money via just the service we provide. And of course, if the customer is paying and regularly, we also do the updating and all the stuff, and they can request some features, and we will implement them according to their needs. But we kind of shifted a little bit, as Gabriel said. We are kind of shifting. We shifted to this open core model. So the base system is open source. Also, the most important apps or modules for provisioning the devices, both DOCSIS, GPON, Active Ethernet, Whisper, whatever. This is all open source. But for example, some of them, what I showed you, for example, the workforce module, which is more used for the bigger ISPs, who have a lot of field techs. And this is something which is, we call it the Prime app. And this is closed source. And so the issue we were facing was that with smaller ISPs, it's not a problem. They usually don't have so much knowledge, and they require the service. The problem with bigger ISPs is that there was always kind of a discussion, or they were saying, we can use your software. It's open source. It's not a problem. We have enough knowledge in-house, and we don't need your service. And this was always kind of this issue with the bigger ISPs that we had. We didn't really have a good argument why we should get our service and how we should kind of finance ourselves using bigger customers. And that's why we kind of made this shift for the modules which are more appealing to bigger customers, that we say they are closed source, and they have to buy licenses basically for this software. And this is the way how we make also kind of earn some money to pay our guys also with bigger customers.
Okay, and Gabriela is also asking, do you promote contributions to the project apart from developing new apps?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yes. So maybe I didn't tell this yet, but the interesting thing is our open source repository is actually hosted by Guifilab now. And if you're in the DOCSIS world, this is basically the standardization body for all the DOCSIS standards, and all the new development is actually done by Guifilab. And we're pretty proud that we are actually kind of featured or hosted on their GitHub repository. And of course, if you would like to working with us and would like to contribute to our software, we're very happy to welcome you. All the open source software is available on the Cable Labs repository. And so you can just clone the GitHub, like the Git repository from there, change it, open up a pull request, and then we will discuss about it. And we would be very happy to take contributions from the outside world.
Good. So I don't know if we've got more questions here for Ole. Okay, thank you from Gabriel's part. As I said, it was very interesting. There are lots of different features that your solution, well, as you said, is in all in a box solution, which and it was curious that with the way you track. This is a silly statement as I'm going to make. The part of about the workforce, how you track your tracks. It's interesting. It's real. That's real life. That's what a real ISP needs from time to time. If you have workforce on the field, it's very useful. And you are, well, you're considering all the things, which is good.
I mean, we are aware that this could be a privacy issue. So of course you can always in your browser, you can always say, I don't want to be tracked. And then, I mean, this is just one option. The first time you fire up our webpage, the browser will basically ask you, do you want to upload your geolocation or not? And so you're free. Of course, I mean, if your employer maybe says, I want to see where you are, maybe you don't really have so much chance to evade this, but of course you're getting paid for it. So yeah, but it was surprisingly simple. I mean, the APIs are very well for this HTTP or using the web browser to get the geolocation. So it was surprisingly easy to implement this stuff. And we are also we are considering creating an app. I mean, all what you said, what you've seen so far, I showed you via the browser, but you can also do this via the phone with a different view screen. And then since we have a responsive design built in, we try to show you only the information. Of course, you can't show as much as with desktop, and so we try to kind of optimize for the smaller screens as well. And so we are kind of thinking maybe we should also create an app, like a native iOS, Android app, but this is just in our heads and we have to think about it. I mean, what you can always do is kind of just bundle this as a web page and have like a web app, which is basically just a browser with some little bit more functionality. But yeah, this is something on our roadmap.
Okay, so well, Pedro is saying thank you for sharing your concerns about the big telecom using open source. It is a hot topic these days, and some nice projects started switching to strange business models and licenses. There are successful models that found a way to attract funding and promote the development Linux, Blender, Matrix, Zotter. But yeah, all three rely on a foundation model. Well, that's another opinion here.
I mean, I would say we're not fixed to this. I mean, this is currently our current thinking, how we should proceed. We will see. I mean, if at some point in time we can pay our employees well enough without using licenses, we can always think of switching back. So we generally are very favorable, as you saw with all the products we're using to open source. So there might be at some point in time we might switch back to completely open source. We just have to see. But I think it makes sense also having kind of this app store. There also third-party programmers can contribute, and even if they don't want to have them published in open source manner, I think it's nice just having the opportunity to do both.
Well, fair enough. I think Gabriel is asking about the billing part. I think Nordesnet would be interested to create a connector for a Spanish bank.
Mm-hmm. Well, this would be very, very interesting to us as well.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not sure how you do the billing in Spain. I guess, I mean, with the SWIFT, in all Europe. I believe it should be similar to Germany, but I'm not sure.
I think so. I'm not an expert, but I think so. Yeah,
would be nice.
Okay, I think that's all. It's 8:20, so it's I don't know if you guys have more questions to Ola. Some users are writing down, so if not, this will be the end of this session. By the way, there's no more Guifilabs on the way for January so far. So let's try billing IP, etc. on the coming 2022. Interesting. So if some of you are interested in being involved on this kind of Guifilabs, feel free to write me down some email or text me or whatever you fancy. And as I said, we will arrange it. So more text. Let's about reference.
Okay, I'll have a look at the links. Thanks for sharing. Just copy this real quick so I don't forget about it.
Pedro is saying, for me, it was very important to know that you support small operators and that the license is a temporary thing that tries to make your business more sustainable. Yeah, well, you can, sometimes you can use the word license, or you can use the word, I don't know, but at last you need to find a business model that works. So thanks again, Ole, for your presentation, and Jordi. Okay, welcome. So I think that's it. As I said, thank you very much, Ole, for having time for us, and well, and extend my gratitude to Martin for the first part. If I don't know if all the attendees are aware, but this is the second part of a Guifilab. The first part was made by Martin, which is a co-worker of Ole. So if you want to have more information about how NMS Prime works and most about his products, you can have a look to our YouTube channel, and you will reach the first part of this Guifilab. So as I said, thank you. If you want to be in the future to continue being involved in this kind of Guifilab, you have some sort of new open source product to share with the community, feel free, and it will be a real pleasure to have you again here, Ole.
Thank you.
So we can keep in touch, and all the best and good luck.
Yes, again, thanks for having me, and it was a very nice, for having the opportunity to show our product, and thanks.
A real pleasure. Okay, guys, have a nice weekend, and see you on January. I don't know, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I don't know, whatever. See you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Ola.